You know, there's a hidden conflict happening right now all across Europe. It's this weird kind of war that's fought just below the surface. It's not tanks and soldiers, but it's designed to distract, to confuse, and to really unsettle the West. A new report from the Center for European Policy Analysis is calling this Russia's shadow war. So, to really get what that means, we need to look at what this war actually looks like on the ground.
Well, for one, it looks like this. Critical data cables deep under the sea, the absolute lifelines of our digital world, they're suddenly cut. And just like that, communications for entire regions are thrown into chaos.
It also looks like this, mysterious fires that just sort of break out at warehouses and factories that are absolutely vital to European industry. The goal? Create damage, create disruption, and sow a bit of economic chaos. And then, at its most brutal, it looks like this. Political defectors, people who fled Russia, are hunted down and killed on foreign soil. It's a terrifyingly clear message to anyone who dares to oppose the Kremlin. So when you put all these pieces together, you see it's not just a series of random incidents, it's a sustained campaign. And that brings us to the central question, right? Why? What is the engine behind this relentless wave of sub-threshold violence? Let's break it down.
To get to that why, we first need to understand the who and the what of this campaign. And that all starts with a really important definition.
The SIPA report calls this shadow warfare. And the key word here, the one you really need to remember, is sub-threshold. See, these actions are carefully calculated to cause real harm, but they always stay just below that invisible line that would trigger an open military war with NATO. It's about pushing the envelope as far as it can go without starting World War III.
But here's maybe the most chilling finding in the entire report. This shadow warfare isn't just a strategy that Putin decided on one morning. No, it's a self-perpetuating system with a really dangerous logic all its own.
And this is such a critical distinction. A strategy, right? That's a choice. Leaders can change it, they can dial it back, they can abandon it altogether. But a system has its own momentum. It's driven by this deep-seated institutional and ideological logic that basically always favors more aggression.
And this quote from the report just hits the nail on the head. Escalation is not a choice. It is the natural result of the system's own internal logic. Think about that. It means the machine is actually built to escalate. It's what it does, almost automatically.
So how in the world does this machine just keep running without any brakes? Well, the report calls it a doctrine without discipline. And the wild thing is, the system is basically immune to feedback. A botched operation isn't seen as a failure, it gets spun as proof of Russia's global reach. An agent gets exposed? That's not a mistake, it's a warning shot to their enemies. Every single failure becomes a justification for more money and more aggression. It creates this crazy loop where being loyal to the system is way more important than actually succeeding.
Okay, so to really understand why this bizarre system even exists, we have to zoom out and look at the history. The report frames what's happening now as the third round in a century-long intelligence war between Russia and the West.
Round 1, from about 1917 to 1950, is seen in Moscow as a huge win, a time when Soviet spies successfully infiltrated Western governments. But Round 2, the Cold War, that ended in what Russian intelligence views as a total, catastrophic failure, a deep national humiliation with the collapse of the Soviet Union. And that brings us to today, Round 3. This is a revanchist confrontation, a fight fueled by this burning desire to reverse that humiliation and claw back what they believe is their rightful place as a global superpower.
So who are the soldiers on the front lines of this shadow war? Well, it mainly comes down to three key intelligence agencies.
First, you've got the SVR. That's their Foreign Intelligence Service. They're more of the old-school, cautious types. Then there's the FSB, the main successor to the KGB. Their whole mission is preserving the regime, which makes them really risk-tolerant and often brutal. But the one to really watch is the GRU. That's military intelligence. Their culture is incredibly aggressive, shaped from the top down by special forces operators.
And this is a total game changer. The report points out that these agencies, especially the GRU, are now pulling their recruits straight from combat veterans. These are guys who fought in Chechnya, Syria, and Ukraine. And what that does is inject a raw battlefield mentality into intelligence work. It's this mindset of fighting a war during peacetime, where the lines between war and peace basically get erased completely.
And this new generation of operatives, they've brought a completely new playbook with them.
one that basically flips all the old rules of spycraft right on their head.
Back in the day, the Cold War approach was all about two things: secrecy and plausible deniability. The number one goal was to make sure an operation could never be traced back to Moscow.
But the new way? It's all about ambiguity and just pure audacity. Today, getting caught isn't always a failure. Sometimes, believe it or not, it's actually part of the plan.
So why the huge shift? Well, the logic is pretty cold and calculated. In our age of digital forensics and constant surveillance, perfect secrecy is pretty much impossible. So the thinking goes, if you can't hide, you intimidate. Western tactics like naming and shaming spies, that has almost no effect on these new guys recruited from special forces. For them, getting exposed is just an occupational hazard. Instead, that boldness is used like a weapon to project power and resolve, both to their enemies abroad and to the audience back home.
And all of this leads us to the final and most difficult challenge. How does the West even begin to deter a system that doesn't follow normal rules and, in fact, seems to get stronger from what the rest of the world calls failure?
It's a huge problem because the system is designed to twist almost any cost into a victory. You hit them with sanctions, you expel their diplomats, you expose their agents in the news. All of that can be spun internally as proof. Proof that Russia is a major power, that its threats are taken seriously, and that the West is out to get them. And that sense of validation just fuels the very aggression it was supposed to stop.
Which leaves us with the central and frankly unsettling question the report poses. The Russian system has no internal discipline. By its very nature, it's designed to escalate. So if that's true, the only way to prevent a much bigger conflict might be for the West to find some way to impose that discipline from the outside. The big question is, how?